Hi, everyone. I am Haley Perry, founder and CEO of Dandy Day, and I am joined here by my wonderful team. And we have our very special guest, Dr. Justin Velten, who is going to walk us through GoCulture. Hey, Justin.
Hey, thanks for having me, Haley.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for being a collaborative partner for Dandy Day. Your company meets a really interesting segment of sustainability as we see it. And also just a really great solution to help build culture and to expand how we interact and work together as human beings and our impact as organizations on our world. So it's really exciting that we could all do this together. And as Dandy Day is the company focused on creating a more sustainable future, we see you as an integral part in helping us do that and showing how what that looks like through an example. So if you would like to share a little bit more about GoCulture and just give an introduction of yourself and what the program is, then we can dive in on a little discussion.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Haley. And Sarah, thanks so much for setting this up. So GoCulture is a training and awareness program around inclusivity, that's diversity, equity, inclusion, specifically around inclusivity, how we develop that as people, how to develop those attributes, those skill sets. And so it's founded upon a 20-year research study. We were involved with over 40 different countries and looking at what are kinds of common threads that run through human nature and how we engage with diversity, how we're inclusive of others, and how we include ourselves, and all these different things. And how can we actually measure that? And then how can we actually equip individuals to do better at that over time? So that's what we do through a software program called GoCulture.
Great, thank you. And so this is kind of the first time that some of the people in the organization, the Dandy Day organization, have interacted with you. And so I'm just wondering, this is very off the cuff, does anybody have any questions for Justin or about the program or anything?
I have so many questions. Are you kidding me? Well, first of all, so excited for us all to be here, and especially Treese. She's the newest member of our team, so really excited that you could make it. And I think for me, and part of the reason why I really wanted, Haley and I really talked about having this conversation was kind of like, all right, how can we share about what GoCulture is in a way that's impactful? And so for us, it's like, let's be a case study. This is, we're literally implementing it into what we're doing because we believe in everything that GoCulture does and stands by and shares. And so we figured, why not open this up and just be like, we're going to be super transparent here. I don't know what to expect. I mean, I know like the nuts and bolts of, okay, we do an assessment, right, Justin? It's like we each take an assessment, and how long does that take normally?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. I can give you kind of a typical question taker, survey taker response on that, which is in the 10 to 12 minute range. We've had some individuals who pore over the questions. We don't encourage this, by the way. They literally spent 6 hours on just answering. That's probably over, analyzing your thoughts and your reevaluation. Just kind of go with your immediate reaction. I think anytime you do an evaluation like this, there's a tendency to want to present yourself very well. And I would encourage you, all of this information is confidential. No one at the organization has access to anybody else's personal scores and those types of things. Only data that's available is kind of the big picture. Here we are as a group. This is our scorings. This is kind of how we look like as a group. And so, if you feel like, man, I don't want anybody to know how I really think or feel or react in this situation, it's okay. Just click the one that really describes you best. And in that way, you'll be able to really get an accurate picture of where you are and where it is that maybe you could do some awareness training to make some improvements.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that it only takes 10 to 12 minutes. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, you can do 6 hours, Sarah, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I'd fall asleep.
And how many questions are there? I mean, if it's only like 10 to 12 minutes.
So there are 48 questions in the process.
Okay.
So one of the things we encourage, Haley, is, it's always good to know where you are right before you start kind of a training program. A lot of trainings that we do in companies, typically there's no evaluation to begin. It's just kind of a learning path that we test you on some concepts and you learn some more and we test you on that. It's so different in this inclusivity kind of measurement world. It's a difficult topic to measure. And like I said, it took us 20 years to feel good about that. And so what we're doing is we want to know where you are now so that we'll help you understand where should I dedicate most of my time. There are 15 different indicators we're looking at, but where should I dedicate most of my time over the next so much period? And then reevaluate that personal growth over time.
Right. So it's kind of like one of those like young topology tests or like the DISC test or something like that. It could be similar.
Yeah, so it's a similar model. Yeah, people sometimes ask us, so is it a personality evaluation or measurement? And the answer is yes and no. If you think about our propensity to be more inclusive of others, part of that literally stems from our personality, right? Some of us are not inclusive of anybody because we're very kind of closed off, and that says nothing maybe about your personal beliefs or desires to want to be inclusive of others. It's just your personality. And so if we can understand that can better for us paint a picture of how do we get better at this inclusivity. But it's more than just personality. You're right. So but it's a similar model, right? You're going to take questions, get some scores in different areas. But one of the things, I'm actually in the process of writing an article right now about how important it is, like our family and the influence our family had and still maybe still has on us, and how we perceive diversity. So were we taught certain things growing up that were so innocent minded at times. Some of them not, some of them are very innocent, but they begin to paint this picture of what's reality, what's safe, who is safe, what's all these things that we carry with us that influence today, at whatever age you may be, how we interact or if we interact with diversity.
Really interesting.
So yeah, I have so many questions from there. Just to start off though, to kind of like level set. So when we get started on doing GoCulture with the team, it's like we each do our own assessment. And then from there, there's like training that comes along with it, depending on our assessment. So does it sort of based on the areas we need more help or we're already strong in? So maybe it, does it gear it towards like wherever you need to kind of work on things?
Yeah, so there are a couple ways that you can utilize that program. So you're right. So you take the evaluation, you get your scores. You're going to see an overall kind of inclusivity index score, and it's kind of like on a grading scale, 0 to 100. And what you're going to then see are 15 different indicators or categories, and you get a score on each of those. And each of those allow you to see, okay, here I'm at a 82%. Out of 100% on this score, and it looks like we're also going to show you kind of what we've seen over the 20 years. This is an average score. So maybe you're close to that average, maybe you're at average or above. We're not saying it's a good score. We're saying it's the average, right? This is what typically people kind of gravitate to this point. And so once you do that, you can do some more deep dive and learn about each of those topics when you see your results, right? You can just kind of do some reading and things. But the program actually then launches you into learning on each of those 15 indicators. So again, this is where I say it's a lot of flexibility here, sir. So you're actually able to decide whether you want. Typically, we deploy the program to where whatever Sarah's lowest score is, you automatically get that training first, because we want you to have the longest period of time in learning and development. And that, of course, we know this to be true. A lot of studies about this, we've seen this to be true. The longer we have in learning about a certain area and to implement some of the challenges and to work through some of these things, the greater likelihood we have that we will show improvement and begin to master some of these things. And we've seen that over and over again over the years. And so, yeah, you do the training. So I'm going to tell you what's involved in the training, but Sarah, you're doing a great job keeping us on track here. So I'm going to pause here so I don't get ahead.
No, I love that. I love that. Well, and just kind of, again, thinking of like what we can expect. Mm-hmm. So we go in, we do the assessment, then the training comes, like, how long does it take? Haley and I were just talking about that. We're like, do you think the team could finish it in 6 months? Will it take a year? Like, how long does this take? Is it, can you power through it? Just things like that, just kind of general questions of what it looks like.
Can I piggyback on top of her question there? I wonder, I think DEI is a lifelong learning experience for us, because the whole landscape changes, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was so ignorant about that. Is there training available after our time period is expired, or whatever that might be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, our program, when the organization implements, they have access kind of on a year subscription type. So they have access for the year, and we can help them, to navigate. Look, do you want to roll this out and it be something that maybe rolls out to a senior leadership the first couple of months, and then you roll it out kind of along the way over time? That's a great way to do that. People sometimes prefer to do that. You want to roll this out to every single person, and then let's piggyback kind of our institutional learning or sessions or in-person sessions or video sessions, work groups around these topics over the course of a year or longer. So that way that can roll out is very customizable, whatever an organization feels like they're equipped to do. As far as the long-term learning, oh, you're exactly right. We know that we all have this progression kind of that we're on. When I got married, or now especially too, when people probably see me and my wife Laura, who has a graduate degree and for a period of time was a marriage and family counselor and professionally, and I have a doctorate in communication. You would think that, oh man, there are never any miscommunications or challenges in marriage for those two people, right? Well, wrong. It happens all the time. And so we all are continually, you can't just get the degree or the certificate and you've got it all right. So what we've done is, what we believe is we want people to be able to do continual learning. Now that may mean for some groups that they go through these 15 indicators over the course of 12 months, and then they go through back maybe again at a kind of the next level. Or they may say, year one, we're going to cover 3. Some organizations, to be honest with you, really want to kind of rush the process and check the box. But we know that when there is exposure, there can still be impact. And so they may say, well, we want a condensed version and we want to knock it out in a month. So it really varies what the organization is looking for, but we are believers that it's a long-term process.
Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting about that too is no matter, I think just like you said, the exposure, right? Just actually doing it and each of us having the individual awareness, maybe Melina and Sam aren't going to be here forever. Therese, Sarah, you're here forever, but everybody else, they might not be here forever with the organization, but at least that's something that they can carry with them, and to be aware of, like, hey, maybe like I have some growth opportunities in, I forget what all the 15 factors are, but I have some growth opportunities, and just being aware of that for when they move on. So, and then Justin, like this program, right? It's used, y'all like work with the Army, right? Like the US Army, or is it the Air Force?
Yeah, we've done some work in the federal government space. We've done some work in higher education and in some companies as well. And so kind of runs in those three ballparks, I guess you could call them, or pillars for GoCulture. And again, if you look at kind of the history of what we've developed, but there's a lot, there's a lot of noise on this topic right now, but there's not a lot of clarity. And I think that's what people are beginning to slow down and realize, that we need a way to better understand what our workforce needs around this topic. We need a way to kind of a roadmap to help develop that workforce over time, that talent. And then third, how in the world do we measure that, right? I mean, it's one thing, it's not that hard, no matter how big your organization is, it's not that hard to look at your hiring practice and hiring numbers and look, okay, what's our talent acquisition demographic spread, right? Like how many people are we hiring? We're gonna put in these categories, or we can pat ourselves on the back about this. We've hired a diverse talent pool. Great. You can quantify that, but how do you quantify personal development around inclusivity? Hence why it takes 20 years to do that, so, and to do it accurately. I mean, anybody can come up with a survey and put that survey out and then feel good about it. And that's great. I mean, I'm sure those can be helpful and impactful in some way, but if you really want to know, are we impacting the workforce to be more inclusive, have a better workplace, then you've got to use a more robust, more scientific method of actually measuring those aptitudes in your workforce.
Yeah, it's really important. So actually, before you and I decided, like, hey, let's partner and do some things together, that was like in October of last year, I had already kind of been on this this journey to try to figure out, okay, what are some DEI solutions that we can start talking about within Dandi Day. And so there were some different programs. We did like a harassment program, had somebody come on and did a talk. We also did looking at cultural competency through some language development, or just being able to connect on very basic levels. And so I think just even my own, like as the leader of a company, trying to find, okay, what is going to be the right program or the right thing to bring into the community, it was a bit of a challenge. And so I think when we talked about what you were doing, it was super exciting. It's like, okay, this is validated, it's scientifically based, it's validated. And so I think this is something that the team hasn't really heard in its entirety. But so can you share, see what else, Sarah? You had other questions.
Okay, I do have other questions.
Okay.
All right. So as a team, I love the process of this. I love being able to have that assessment, know where you're at, do the work, see where you're at after that. Like, first of all, I think that is extremely useful and powerful, just to have those guidelines and that containment of progress. But then it's also, so then I think about, okay, a team like this, like a very small team to a really big team, like how does working through a program like GoCulture, how does this, or how does working on inclusivity strengthen the team? How does this strengthen a business? Like, why is this important?
It seems like over the past, I don't say 20 years, it's kind of a vague number, but over the past 20 years or so, there's been a lot of focus on corporate culture, right? I mean, you hear this, people have made fortunes through corporate culture consulting, and those are important things. And where they might give you like the DISC assessment you mentioned earlier, Haley, or some of those things, and those are important, they're valuable, it's great information, you can build some programming around that. But typically when people have asked questions about organizational culture, it's typically asking an employee these questions about this kind of ambiguous thing called a company or a corporate. What exactly am I evaluating? Did I have a bad experience one time with somebody over here, and so therefore I say we have a bad corporate culture or whatever? And so there's a place for that, and that can be very helpful to an organization to understand those things. So, but I think in order to help the organization better as people, we have to realize and kind of see the organization as people, as a group of individuals. And so when we're doing that, then we've got to say, okay, we're not evaluating an organization so much as we're evaluating and helping individuals better understand themselves, their background, where they are, where they want to go, the reasons for these things, and the why, and all this that's been going on that I can begin to wrap my head around as a person now, as an employee. And if I can begin to kind of get my things in order, more so around how I engage with diversity, well, that automatically begins to reshape that corporate culture, because it's no longer about them or it. It's about me, my self-improvement. And if I can get better at this, then I'm going to be a better team member and treat people in a different way, hopefully more positively. But with that said, sir, I do think there's also a place for, and we're actually in the process of considering really rolling out some really strong kind of team components of what we're doing, and kind of experimenting on what that might look like, what's a good way to do that, because organizations are used to that. You know, they're used to team development, team discussions, those kinds of things. And I think there's a great benefit to that. And so that is something that we're looking to kind of add on top of a next layer, right? So you do personal development, and then how can we make it a more communal experience?
When you're sitting there talking about like the assessment and being able to get a sense of personality and who the person is, I'm like, could you just make a QR code so if I go on a date, I can be like, okay, you need to do this assessment first, and then we can see if we're gonna have dinner or just a cup of coffee.
That's fine. But, yeah, sorry, Sarah. I mean, if you'd like to do that, we can set that up for you somehow. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, excellent.
Yeah, it's a new vertical. It's a new vertical for you, Justin.
Yeah, it is. You know what? You want to see. Yeah. Their GoCulture, inclusivity index, certification or micro credential before that. I get it.
Well, and that is the perfect lead in, because another question that Haley and I had talked about, I know there is a certification. So is it like you go through the program and then each individual gets a certificate? Is it as a team? Like, how does that all play out? Because I'm looking to beef up my LinkedIn profile and let people know that I am a DEI graduate of GoCulture.
Yeah, that's you and everybody else. So yeah, there's a process, right, to this, and though we want to make sure a large number of people are learning and developing, we're hopefully, like others, we don't just want to pass these things out, right? So once you complete the program, so there is, I kind of finished down that trail earlier. You're going to do the evaluation. You're going to see your scores. You're going to then launch into, on each of the indicators, you're going to do some reading on that, very brief, kind of better understanding of the topic. You're going to see your score on each of those, and you're going to watch a brief learning video, kind of awareness video about the topic. And then you're going to see a section on some challenges. These are things kind of put it in action in the workplace or outside the workplace to help you get better and develop these skills. And then lastly, on each of these topics, you're going to see what we call a journaling section, but it's kind of a space for you to go in, again, completely confidential. We're going to ask you some questions. The organization can customize these questions for their needs, but questions that work pretty well is, introspective things. Why is it possibly that my score is here in this area? How have I seen that play out in the workplace? And what's my plan of action? So there's some accountability in there, some long-term planning going on the individual level. So once you do that for all of those indicators, all 15 of those, you'll be asked to go back through the evaluation. It's not to test your knowledge. We're not saying, okay, what's this policy A, B, or C type deal, but it is over time. So, okay, how what have we learned, and how have what we learned actually impacted the way we see others, the way that we interact with others, our desire to do so. Has it improved that, or is it not so much improved that? Are we still the same? Typically we see a pretty significant improvement during that period, because again, I think self-awareness is a big part of that. And so once you have finished that, Sarah, you'll go through those 48 questions again. Once you complete that, then you will be able to, there's a great, congratulations, page you'll see. And then there is a button you click, you can view your diploma certification, and you can post that wherever you'd like.
I dig it. Well,
I had another question. I'm just thinking about, like, as we're going through this process and everything, is like, do you have like a closed Facebook group or something for people that are going through this? Like, say, like, we want to talk to other people that are going through this, and like we have a question, or like, oh my gosh, like, what does that mean? And I don't know. I guess I think it could feel a little bit lonely as you're going through this, like as an individual. Maybe you don't want to talk to your coworkers about it, but is there other support that's available?
Absolutely. So we have a great support staff here, but and here is such a relevant idea anymore, right? I mean, we have locations, different places, kind of like you all have, but on staff we have lots of support, and so that's there available for you. However, what you're mentioning is a great idea that we need to implement, something that provides a community for you in a space where it is for people who are maybe implementing the program or going through the program, to bounce ideas off of other professionals going through. Because some organizations have individuals or even entire departments dedicated to DEI work. There are a large number of organizations that do not have that. And so you're either asking somebody maybe in human resources or in that talent development area, possibly to oversee and to generate this program for the organization. And they need additional support that we can offer, but they may like not reaching out to us, just reaching out to others and saying, okay, we learned this about our organization. GoCulture kind of points us down this path, as an organization, then what to do next, as well as we're training the individual. But as an organization, they're telling us, okay, these are some ideas. If your organization is scoring here in this area, let's do this next step. We provide those things. However, I do think there's a lot to be said about that community. So that's a great idea, Haley.
Great. I love it when they give good ideas. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions or thoughts?
I feel like I'm about to take a final exam. Gotta make sure I get a good grade.
But there's a lot riding on this, Sam. I mean, you gotta really study for it.
I was gonna say, have you guys, Melina, Tree, Sam, have you guys done anything like this? Any kind of training or anything?
So there is another assessment that I manage for a different client called Emergenetics, which is strictly around, I shouldn't say strictly, it's around gauging somebody's personality and how they choose to think and respond and communicate. And it's sounding similar, but bringing in the DEI piece is just, it's so valuable and so needed that I'm very excited about this.
I'm excited too. I feel like, especially after 2020, I felt like I was personally in a good space. Like, oh, okay, I understand. I do the right things, and it was like, oh wow, no, I have a lot to learn. And that was just, personally, just kind of having some highlights on areas where, oh, I know this because this has been my experience. I don't understand what all these other experiences are like, and trying to figure out best ways to learn and educate myself. And so the opportunity to be able to go through this program is really exciting, because it can feel very daunting. At least for me, it definitely can feel daunting. And like, I know some things, I don't know a lot of things. I don't know where to turn. I don't know how to you know, how to educate. I mean, I read books, I do things like that, but I'm excited to go through this process and see what opens up and what's available after that. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah, likewise, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you all, and we just either through Sarah and Haley or directly to us, just reach out with any questions, or and we're happy to get back with you and answer any questions. And if there's anything that through the process strikes a good nerve, and you think, we want to learn more about this. We are not a consulting company. We're not looking to upsell any kind of consulting or anything like that, but we do have relationships with consulting organizations that are really strong in these topic areas, and that they'd be more than happy to talk to you about those things more in depth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, wait, I have another question. Well, just thinking about as we're going through this process, Haley, your question about being able to connect with other people. I mean, does it make sense for us as a team, especially because we're small, to have like team working sessions? How can we get the most out of this and support one another while going through it? Like, how do you see that kind of unfolding?
I think that anything you can do to make this process community-based does drive a few of the components. It's going to drive your accountability, right? For one, it's going to drive kind of a sense of community on this topic. And some of organizations immediately in 2020 drove to what are called ERGs. You're probably familiar with these employee resource groups, where we kind of segregate ourselves into, I identify with this group, and for whatever reason, or whatever group that may be, so I'm going to lump myself into this group. And they're kind of like a amped up Facebook group with some additional learning content and stuff, but it's kind of a community for anybody in this workplace who identifies, fits, whatever, with this group. And there are some benefits there, but there can also be some really grave consequences there as well, because you're really being less inclusive. You're kind of separating yourselves out. And so if you can find a way to develop groups, and with your organization being the size it is, it can be everybody together. I mean, if you've got 20,000 employees, that's difficult. There are different ways to do that. But for you all to do this on your own, but I think every so often. So if you may choose to, instead of everybody launching into their lowest score first, Sarah, you may want to get with us about switching it over to where everybody goes to the same topic at the same time. And that would allow you, if you want to make it a 6-month, 12-month process, then once a month you could have a kind of debrief on that, in addition to or in lieu of maybe kind of like a Facebook group concept.
I have another question. So like when we get our scores for the 15 indicators and it's compared to a baseline, is there a particular score or like range of scores where there's not given supplemental support?
No, that's a great question. It's pretty hard to score 100% on it, Haley. I know you're a great student and things, but right now she's thinking, can I clip?
Not
right?
as good.
Right. Okay, so yeah, you still have access to, and in order to finish, are going to be required to go through learning and development on that topic. Okay. Even if you got a 99% or 100% on a category, Haley, sorry.
Oh no, it was, I'm not expecting to score great on everything. I'm just wondering, like, if there's like more, like say I scored like a 65 in one area and then like an 85 in another area. So the area that I scored 65, would there be more support in that than there would be in the 85 area? Like, would I have a longer video to watch, or 2 videos as opposed to like 1 video? Or
that's a great question. So at this point, it is there's a lot of no matter what your scores are, you're all getting a similar experience. You're getting access to the entirety of that kind of first year program. And that's, and interestingly, the idea you're talking about is something that we think about from an organizational level. So how less so about the person level, because for many reasons, but one being, you can look at even what's going on right now in the federal government space around equal access to training and development. So I mean, logistically, it makes sense to say, well, if you scored lower in a certain area, we're going to increase your training in a certain area. But then it can look like one person's getting more training than another. And but what we can do is step back and say, well, let's look at the organization then. If the organization as a whole, 10,000 employees, 5 employees, we have an overall score of a 65% in one of these indicators. We provide you, kind of in a leadership or whoever's guiding that initiative, some tools to say, okay, here are some then next steps for that area, for your organization as you're leading that initiative, next steps.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's what I'll be doing. Just looking at it all.
Doing a great job, I'm sure.
Does the assessment itself change over time? Because I know that like DEI is a continuous cycle of like rebuilding and relearning. And so I was wondering if like the assessment that GoCulture itself provides is like revised, or if it changes over time to each client or at a corporate level.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, Melina. So yes and no. So what we revise based on certain needs of an organization that, we can change it to an extent, right? So when you're doing an evaluative model like this, and, we started with 165, I think, questions. And then over the course of about 8 years, through what's called a regression analysis, took out questions that, feel like we're getting us the consistent results you need when you're doing a kind of mapping out an evaluation like this. And then you begin to look for, questions that kind of cluster together and all this. You end up with 48 of your most robust, kind of legitimate questions. And so we don't deviate from those questions in the spirit of those questions. Now, over time, those questions have evolved a bit, to capture certain areas, to improve readability and more, what does this mean to a broader group and things like that. Absolutely, that has changed. But if your question is, okay, so if an organization is doing this year on year, are they getting a different evaluation? Interestingly, the answer is no, because in order to get a true accurate measurement of improvement over time, we can add a gazillion questions to it, but those 48 questions have got to be there kind of as the true core measurement device. Sounds nerdy, at least, right, Haley? That's
yeah. I'm a nerd, so it sounds really exciting to me.
Right. You all know all this chemistry. We've talked before, 2 classes in college that I ever either struggled with or dropped were accounting and chemistry. And those are things that Haley's really good at. So yeah, over the last year, I think the number has probably plummeted, but there's not a really strong idea of where this is now. But over the past number of years, even scholarly groups have tried to kind of put a number behind aptitudes like this. There's something called a Cronbach alpha. It's a reliability score. So to kind of finish up, or just to kind of tag this on to Melina, what you're asking. So the reason we're asking those same questions, at least somewhere in the process, is because the reliability, the kind of accuracy, legitimacy of the data you're getting about you as a person and as an organization, they rely a lot on those questions. And so the reliability of typical measurement scores like this over the years have been about a 43%. And so it's called a 0.43 on a Cronbach alpha. So it's how reliable is this data? So 43%, it's kind of like, if you flipped a coin, you would get more accurate results, right? But in academia and things, 43% is okay. It's actually pretty good. If you can get above 70, you're kind of in the mosh pits of the academic nerd world, but we were fortunate over 20 years to have a data reliability or Cronbach alpha score of 93%. So it's more than double kind of industry standard average of data you're getting around this kind of stuff. And the reason I say it's plummeted over the last year is because our score is still at 93, but we're seeing anybody and everybody says, look, I'm a DEI expert. I made this survey. I'm a consultant or I'm a professional. And so they just go on, Survey Monkey or whatever and gen up 10, 15 questions, kind of feel good questions. And they launch those out. Again, they can do some good things with those, but there's not really legitimacy behind that approach.
No. Yeah, that's really good to know. And I would just love to hear just a really quick thing from Melina, Sam, Therese, Haley, like kind of how you are feeling going into this. I know for myself, I'm excited and a little nervous just to kind of see what comes up and see where my scores are, but also, really excited to dive into this work. But I would love to hear from you guys.
So I share your nervousness. I was born and reared in good old Wyoming. And, those things you're raised with, I have worked very hard to let go of and not, willingly, happily go, oh, wow, that was so inaccurate. But I also really would love that learning community and getting us together and would totally support that. So yay, let's jump in.
Yay.
Yeah, what do you think your score will be?
I don't know. Because one side of me is like, I have done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of talking with my friends and really exploring what is this? I have a, almost 18-year-old daughter who is close to obsessed with this kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, I'll say something. I'm like, I don't know.
I love it. Thanks, Therese.
Good.
Melina or Sam, do you want to share?
I'm really excited. I want to be as transparent as possible. And my intention is sort of to learn and unlearn a lot of things that I might have, previously thought I knew, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really excited, but I am a little nervous too, because, it's hard to be vulnerable, especially with like a newer team. But I'm really happy that this is a really open and wonderful community. So I'm excited to share what I know and don't know. So
What's your expected score? What do you think? What do you guess?
I have no idea. I mean, personally, I feel, and from my own experience, I've lived in Hawaii all my life, and I've had a really diverse community around me, and people that raised me were really from all over the world. And but I do go to school in Oregon, which is very different from Hawaii. So I feel like I've had two different experiences. So I'm not too sure, but I'm excited to see what it is.
I'm also excited. I think it's really good to always look for opportunities that can better your person in a community, in a workspace, or just in yourself. So I'm excited to get a jump on this.
Sam, what do you think? Expected score?
I'm shooting for an A.
Hey, just don't score higher than A. Apparently she's concerned about this.
I might cheat and look up the answers on Quizlet, but we'll.
How about you, Haley?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's I had a really diverse and not diverse experience growing up right in West Texas, but in my own family and my own experience, being what you would call a transracial adoptee. Life was always very confusing for me. Like inclusivity diversity, inclusivity, and all that, it wasn't really a choice for me. I just had to figure out like a way to, interact like with my surroundings and whether it was my family, the culture, my school. So yeah, so it'll just be really interesting to look at these different measures. I think my whole life I've been trying to figure out some of these things, but looking at it in a program and seeing how that's like shaped me or formed me, I don't know. I have no idea. So and as a mom, I get told all the time all the things that I don't know. So it's like, yeah, whatever. I just have a score to show me. It's like, yeah, the kids are right.
I love that. I love that, Haley. And I also so appreciate, Melina, what you said as far as the vulnerability, like being able to show up in a workplace and be vulnerable. But what I love about this conversation too is that we're all sharing, like there's that equal parts excitement and nerves around it. Like, oh gosh, what is this going to uncover about me? And then, what do I do from there? But that's why I'm excited about the software. And I think what Sam said really, Sam and Therese, what you guys said too, it's like that once you know, then, oh, okay, now I understand. Now I know that I can do something about it. Yeah, I love the idea of that, like personal responsibility of, okay, here's something I can do. I can see where I'm at, and then I can see where I can improve from there. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, well, don't be afraid. It's going to be a great experience. I hope for you all. And again, we want to support that experience. And we all have room for improvement. And you'll even hear that being said as you enter the program. Kind of a welcome video that we all have this room for improvement. If you don't, then you're out of touch with. If you don't think that, you're out of touch with reality. I mean, we all have areas where we can improve. What this does is just allows us to be able to put a finger on those areas and then begin to grow those areas and improve in those areas.
All right. And Justin, thank you. And why don't you share like your website and all that so we can kind of close out in case anybody wants to go and check out more.
Yeah, sure, Sarah. Thanks. And again, thanks for letting me be here and to help you all launch this program. Excited about it for y'all. Our website is GoCulture.com. And anybody can find us there and find information, how to reach us, how to learn more about the program, or to get it set up quick and easy for your organization. So thanks. I know we'll be in touch through your rollout process and look forward to that next conversation.